Why am I suddenly at the little kids' table at Thanksgiving? Oh my gosh. Is it? There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, just a quick little double check, and yes, we are rolling. Welcome back, everybody. It's another podcast plus one, the most magical thing to happen to your ears since a Q-tip. You gotta really give me cues on that before. All right, see, this is the reason why we can't have coffee at the podcast table. Because
it's too small for your hands.
Because of the visual comedy. And I ain't got no cue to go over to you while you're fictionally and really slurping on that Java. Okay, yeah, that's enough of that. All right, hey, welcome everybody. Podcast plus one. We're back at it again with another Dungeons and Dragons in virtual reality podcast extravaganza. This is episode number 3, technically. You can see or hear the show. You can email us in at our email.
Podcast plus one mail@gmail.com.
Spelled out.
Spell the entire thing with letters.
Spell that whole shit out. No numbers on that, okay?
podcastplusonemail.gmail.com.
Nice.
High rule.
I rule.
I rule.
You rule.
High rule.
Suddenly it's some kind of dare message. Well, we got a good show for you today. I made up the show's topics about 5 minutes ago, but I think they're going to be absolute bangers. And I think we're also going to talk about some D&D rules, maybe all the new stuff that's coming out. I'm sure you've heard Spelljammer, a heavy rumor of Spelljammer coming. And then, I don't know, this overwhelming feeling from that I have, and I'm sure a lot of people have, and that is, the more time goes on and the more time I spend running D&D games and playing in D&D games, the more I think that 6th edition has to be different. I don't think that it's going to be a small iteration.
No.
I think it has to be different. And you know what was a big eye-opener for me was recently another great D&D content creator, Bob the World Builder. Have you heard his channel? So he made a video on weapons. Like weapons in D&D.
Yeah.
And how none of them fucking matter.
No, they don't.
They really are stat sticks and do nothing.
Yep.
And you spend so much time in combat using them, and they're not fun. And I'm like, Of course! Like, fuck balance. This game is supposed to be fun. So I that got me thinking about a lot of different things about 5e and about D&D and how, like, the next edition, whatever it is, it's got to be way different. But anyway, let's start off with a fun topic. I'm going to quickfire questions you something, Link. Are you doing under the table?
I dropped my coffee. I said it was going to happen before the show, and it did.
Okay. Well, first quickfire question. So today, we are obviously, let me get a better camera angle of both of us. If I know how to even run the show anymore. There we go. So as you can see today, it's a D&D podcast, but we're both video game characters. What I want... What the fuck do you mean, sort of? You're Lonk from Dungeons of Zelda.
I am Lonk from Dungeons of Zelda, but I'm Walmart Lonk because reasons.
Because you're blue? I don't get it. Anyway... That is what we are here to talk about today. How do you feel about people that bring characters to the table that are very clearly video game characters? Even if they like rename them, blatantly say it, or they try to hide it. How do you feel about people playing out video game character fantasies in D&D?
I don't like it.
Okay. Tell me why. Tell me why.
Ain't nothing but unoriginal. That's visual comedy you're doing there.
It's not comedy. It's violence.
That wasn't funny. It takes away, I think, from the authenticity of a character at the table. If you have a bunch of like original characters and one dude or lady or whatever playing a video game character, like completely uninspired, it'll, for me, kind of take away from the group as a whole.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you, but I'll play devil's advocate on this.
Please
because
do.
I also do not enjoy it when people... It feels, for me, when you sit down at a table and play Dungeons and Dragons with people, it feels like we're all like sharing an experience together.
Yeah.
And when you don't bring your own ideas to the table, I feel like you're copping out, like you're taking but not giving. And that maybe that's selfish of me to think that way. Like, it shouldn't be a transactional thing. But I do feel like if, we all come together and we set expectations and we say we're going to play D&D, that if I'm bringing a character, I'm going to be sharing something that's of me with everybody else.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the most special things about D&D. So I guess I'll play devil's advocate and I'll say that it's still role-playing, right? It's a role-playing game. You're just playing a role of a character who already has an identity and a backstory that everybody knows. And, there's not going to be a whole lot that you're going to be able to learn about that character because you already know. It's going to be very hard to not meta game, that sort of thing. So I kind of agree with you, but the reason why I'm bringing up this topic and the reason why I think this is going to be kind of fun is because right now, you're Lonk, right? You're Lonk from Dungeons of Zelda.
Uh-huh.
What class is Lonk in Dungeons and Dragons, right? So you have to build the character in D&D Beyond, owned by Wizards of the Coast now. Another big drop, like crazy pickup that we kind of all saw coming, matter of time. But anyway, you're building Lonk from Dungeons of Zelda.
Uh-huh.
What level? What classes? What's the build?
He's a fighter. He's a fighter.
Okay.
100%.
Just fighter? Like just fighter? How many levels in fighter?
He's a straight fighter. Probably. Well, I guess that depends on what point of the game you're at, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like he's pretty special. A lot of the stuff that happens with Link is more through magical items. He doesn't really have any innate abilities other than he's just like a good swordsman and pot smasher. He's excellent at smashing pots, right? That's a fighter trait.
Same with a lot of people here in Seattle.
Yeah. I don't know what that means, but yeah.
Everybody in Seattle knows what I mean. Same thing with some of you people in Colorado.
Now I know what that means. We don't have that
here. All right. So anyway, fighter. All right.
Yeah.
I am Steiner from Final Fantasy IX.
Mm-hmm.
I would also agree, probably, you know what? I would say Steiner is probably half barbarian, half fighter.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
Half and half, multi-class. Now, I'm going to lift my headset up really quick to look at a list I made because I'm about to hit you with another one. Okay?
Oh, boy.
You ready for the next one?
Let's do it.
Okay. We're going to get progressively harder and harder and harder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The main character from Skyrim. What classes?
Oh, God. It's whatever you build it as.
Right, but like, so the stereotypical, like the one you see in the trailer.
Oh, in the trailer.
Yeah.
So like Dovahkiin with the horned helmet and all that.
What classes is that in D&D?
Oh, that is tough. So I almost want to make him like a multi-class wizard barbarian. Because like you'd have to say thaumaturgy for all of his thumbs, right?
Yes. Thaumaturgy. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So there's some thaumaturgy. There's spell casting involved for sure. Mm-hmm. I don't remember. I mean, it really depends on how you build it out for for the classes. But
Is-
if we're talking just the trailers,
Yeah, I'm
I
talking
would
about the
say-
stereotypical.
Mhm.
You just start the game. You have the dragon shouts.
Maybe I'll take that. Maybe I'll take the barbarian back and go fighter because I don't think there's no rage involved. There's no big weapons. Not that
Right.
a barbarian
It's
has
not
to
its
use them.
identity to rage,
Right.
right?
Right.
But
yeah.
the shout and the fighting prowess. So fighter and like, how would you do? So thaumaturgy, shout, like what is? Because the shout, like thaumaturgy, doesn't blow people back.
No, and that's where I'm saying wizard because then you've got like spells and stuff.
That's tough though, because it doesn't seem. He doesn't seem wizard, right? You
No,
watch the
at
trailer
all.
for Skyrim, you're not like wizard,
Right.
right?
Wizard in iron.
Dude, a wizard in iron is a great title for a faction in a D&D
Yeah.
game, though.
Actually,
Like the wizards in iron is actually really dope. Writing that shit down.
I
Right
like
now.
that.
Y'all
Yeah,
can
there you
steal
go.
that out there watching or listening to this show. So that's a tougher one.
yeah.
That's a tougher one.
I mean, if you want to, I don't think there's really an equivalent to the Thumbs then. Because thaumaturgy kind of is like that Foos thing. There is a push involved with it somewhere, if I recall. I know you can like light fires and candles and stuff. You can open windows and doors with it, and some part of me says that you can somehow change like minor weather events. But I don't know. I haven't used thaumaturgy since my tiefling.
Isn't there a subclass? Because obviously you got the dragonborn.
Yeah.
But isn't there, like, doesn't the monk have, like, a way of the dragon? Or wasn't there, like, a dragon-like subclass that came in recently?
Recently, I'm not sure. I haven't seen any of the new stuff. There's draconic bloodline sorcerers.
Maybe that
otherwise-
would be it then.
Yeah. Otherwise, I was thinking you could do a draconic bloodline sorcerer for some of your magic and your heritage, and then go with like maybe an eldritch knight fighter.
Oh, yeah.
Or something like that, because they do have some magical
Okay.
fighters too.
All right, we got some options there. Okay,
Yeah.
what about this one? So
Okay.
a little bit harder.
Mm-hmm.
Mario.
Mario. Ooh.
What is
Mario.
Mario's class if you were gonna play him in D&D? I think it's harder at first, but I think once you go through all the classes, it's a pretty easy decision.
I almost want to say monk.
Yeah, that's my answer too.
Yeah.
Monk. Punching and
Monk.
jumping.
Yeah. Like he doesn't do a whole lot. He's super acrobatic and he flies around and he bounces on top of things. But yeah, he doesn't. There's no weapon use or anything like that. He doesn't cast
Also,
spells. Monk.
doesn't speak.
That's true.
Never made that monk connection until right now.
Just exclaims.
Doesn't speak. Oh yeah, I guess that's not very monk-like. Wah! Lost another one in Tibet. Okay, here's another one.
Yeah.
Did you ever play Fallout?
Yeah.
Fallout guy.
Fallout guy.
Main character in Fallout.
Okay, main character in Fallout.
Yeah.
Not Fallout guy. Heck, this one's tough. Artificer for sure.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, there's a lot of crafting involved. I would definitely say Artificer. And probably... You know what? If we're talking specifically Fallout 4... Is that the newest one?
Yeah.
I would almost say Ranger, too, because of dog meat.
Yeah. Yeah,
With an
companion.
Animal companion, yeah. So maybe like an Artificer Ranger combo.
Okay. That's actually the most intriguing and most original
Yeah.
of all of the ones so far. But I also had... Okay, so here's another one.
Yep.
They're going to get harder.
Okay.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, no. Wild shape druid that is stuck in Hedgehog.
Oh, you had a good answer for that. Stuck in Hedgehog form. Wild shape. Oh, man.
Right?
You're right.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think?
You're right. Yeah, email us in.
It sounds right.
Email us in and let us know if you've got a better idea. Okay, let's go even further.
Hold on. Let's talk on that one for 1 second.
We can, yeah.
Sonic is the wild shape hedgehog, stuck in hedgehog form, but all of his companions, Knuckles the Echidna, Tails the Fox, all of his whole crew, they are actually those animals interacting with Sonic. What do you think about that?
And like they don't know?
Yeah, they have no idea he's a druid.
Oh shit, does he know he's a druid? Dude, that's a fucked up backstory for a druid. Thinks that they're an animal?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, Sonic is awesome now.
That's deep as fuck. That's layers, man. Because then, dude, you play it off as another character in the group is a ranger that thinks the druid is their companion.
Yeah. And then Robotnik has something to do with him being in hedgehog form permanently.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
Dude, we're going to play a Sonic campaign. This is real, man. Okay, you ready to go one step further, even harder?
Let's take it up. Yep, take it up.
Kirby.
Oh, God. Kirby,
what the
Kirby.
fuck is that thing, really?
Kirby's a ditto.
It's like bubble gum with eyes.
It's the non-Pokemon ditto. Oh,
so what is it?
I almost feel like Kirby's not...
Can shapeshift into everything, not just like disguise self, not animal, but
right. So we're talking like
everything.
shifter. We're talking like shifter or Doppler. I was going to say
it
almost sounds like Kirby is more of a monster and not so much a character.
Yes, like a doppelganger more than a bestial thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Holy shit, Kirby's a doppelganger.
Yeah.
Holy
a doppelganger
fuck.
that gives the suck to get abilities.
Say
big
no
vacuum,
more.
Big
approved.
vacuum.
That
mouth.
character's approved for the campaign.
Excellent.
Approved.
Did you just stamp paper?
Yes, I did, but I was looking for a desk in real life, and it is not. There you go. Stamp. Approved. That's what everybody should have to do at session 0 is bring a piece of paper with like 3 sentences on it, and then the DM gets to stamp or rip it up. Tell them to go back. Oh, man. What do you got? What other video game characters do you think are kind of tough to even recreate in the D&D, even if you wanted to?
Yeah. All right. I think, well, first, our gaming backgrounds are slightly different.
How so?
I grew up more on shooters and stuff, and Nintendo was very much in the background for me, but I feel like Nintendo was at the forefront of your kind of childhood and gaming and stuff like that.
Yes.
So my initial thoughts are going to be like more of the action characters, like Doom Guy. What is Doom Guy?
Doom Guy is a barbarian and an artificer.
Okay. Yep. I would say that.
Yeah.
The other one that comes to mind, again, like with all the shooters and stuff, let's say Master Chief. I'm sure, that's topical too. They got to show out. So what's the Master Chief?
Master Chief. It's tough because in a medieval D&D setting, your mind automatically gravitates. Anything with technology, you gravitate towards artificer.
Yeah.
Right?
So
he's wearing an armor suit.
Right. So let's run it back and say that.
But so am I.
Well, you're right, and that's where I'm going with this.
It's just a less
like,
tech armor suit.
Let's run it back in history and say 1300s Master Chief.
Okay.
So like he's got like his energy sword and maybe like a crossbow or something.
Right. Like what is he? Because he doesn't really do anything that's special.
No,
he's just like a soldier that's
like
better than
superhuman.
all other soldiers.
Yeah.
He's just like the best fighter or the best. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't get angry, right?
Nope, not really.
Yeah, that's a weird one. Because
Right?
it doesn't feel right just to pin him as a fighter.
It seems
But what
too
else
simple.
is he?
Right. But like that's what he would be. He would be some kind of like heavy armor fighter. Mm-hmm. It just sounds far too simple. Okay,
That is crazy. He literally is a knight, a high up ranking knight of the round table in the future.
Yeah. Yep. He's
Fuck.
one one of the Galactic Kingdom's greatest warriors.
Yeah. He is like a galactic knight, which is also would be that. I mean,
Super
Spelljammer's
cool.
coming up, right? So like maybe that's gonna be a class coming up in Spelljammer, the Galactic Knight.
I got another one for you. Let's
Hit
do
me.
Cloud. Since we're
Cloud.
doing Final Fantasy, let's do Cloud.
Cloud. That is gonna be. That's interesting. I mean, got magic, right?
Yep.
Got magic, got big sword.
Yep.
What do you have other than fighter sorcerer?
Probably Straight Fighter Eldritch Knight,
Okay.
or yeah, no, I think you're right.
tough.
I think it's between those two.
That's yeah.
It is
That's
a
a little
tough
bit
one. Now-
more straightforward.
So here's
yeah.
here's a more abstract one, right?
Like literally right there.
Yeah, Ash Ketchum.
You know what's funny?
Huh?
Let me look at my list real quick.
Is he on your list?
Yes, because I wrote Ash Ketchum down on my list, but
Yeah.
it didn't work.
Okay.
And instead, what my phone decided to write. Hold on.
Oh no.
Hold on.
Ass
Hold
Ketchup.
on. Hold on. It's worse than that. It's actually worse than that. Apparently, what my phone decided to write instead was Ash Ketchum.
Oh no.
Ketchum. Ash Ketchum. Ash Ketchum.
Just a horrible.
My
horrible
favorite
list.
Perkman character. And his cousin Gory. Ash
Gory
Ketchum.
Irk.
And Professor Ock. Yeah, Ash Ketchum, Ranger,
Yep.
and I don't know, whatever class fucking cries the most, Bard. I don't know. What's your take on Ash Ketchum? Besides
kinda-
just straight up Ranger.
Yeah, just like some kind of Beastmaster.
You know what? Ranger Artificer.
You think so?
The balls.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
suppose.
He
Yeah,
stores
I suppose.
he stores his companions inside technology.
That's true. I like that.
Yeah.
That works.
And also not a very common combo. You know what? I'm
No.
learning a lot from comparing video game characters to D&D today because they're not as like as soon as you convert them and then remove the identity and
Yeah.
just keep the class combo, it really
becomes
does get
more
it
interesting.
stirring. Yeah, it gets the brain fucking whirring.
For me, that's perfectly acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And let's put it out there. Let's get it straight. There's no wrong way to play Dungeons and Dragons,
Except there is.
except there is, but there's not.
There's not.
Playing a video game character, if that's what you want to do, no one's going to stop you. Well, maybe your DM might stop you. He shouldn't.
I'm going
But-
to stop you.
He'll stop you.
But a great place to start, maybe for inspiration.
Yes, I think that's the better way to go. Instead of saying, I'm going to be Ash Ketchum, say, I'm going to be
Ash
Ash
Ketchum.
Ketchum. Ketchum.
Ash
Esque.
Ketchum.
I'm going to be Ash Ketchum-esque. It's going
It's
to
like
be
a combination
like
of
it.
Kirby, where I suck everything. Uh-huh. Yeah. No.
I use my balls to suck everything.
Denied. You want to talk about some rules?
Sure. Let's
Let's.
first before we get into that. What
Okay.
are some of your favorite multi-class combos? Do you have any? Have you played any?
My favorite multi-class combos? Yeah, my
Yeah.
last character that I ever played in a campaign, which never seems to last very long, was one of my favorite characters ever, actually, was my
Okay.
kobold named Mince.
Ah.
And there's literally no, I didn't decide he was going to be like a multi-class this and this. I didn't build him.
Uh-huh.
But the dynamic and the concept of him is that whenever it's time to level up, whoever he is closest to, friendship-wise, he learns from them one level.
Okay.
And he ended up being like 4. Because, and it's weird because I kind of figured in a normal arc or a TV show or a movie, like certain characters usually stick together. Like they form a bond. And you know what's weird? That didn't happen with that character.
Really?
Yeah. Like every arc, I'll use each milestone leveling segment as an arc. He felt closer to a different character every time we leveled.
Interesting.
And I don't know if that says anything about me or the character or the other people's characters or the other people themselves. But yeah, he ended up being like a fighter, rogue. He's fighter, rogue, barbarian 1. Actually, I think he's barbarian 2 because he was closest to... It's a long story, but anyway, he was really close to my previous character, who instead of him not fitting in the group and being killed off, he actually ended up going evil and then turning into a bad guy that got away for later.
Ooh, cool.
So I actually have 2 characters that are technically still alive, but instead of killing one off, I gave one to the DM as a plot point.
Yeah.
And he was actually close, this NPC, and then Mince, the kobold, was an NPC. So I swapped with the DM.
That's
we swapped an NPC for a character, and he was closest to the barbarian. So he's barbarian 2, rogue 1, fighter 1. And it's made him into a very unique character. And not in like a gimmicky way where I'm like, I'm going to be silly and multi-class everything. I let the story dictate my multi-class.
Yeah.
And I turned it into this freaky little kobold Swiss Army knife that like, and the other thing that allows that to work too with 5e is because his dex is really high.
Yeah.
And having high dex when you make your character in 5e, I feel like is having a rich family in real life. like you still have to like go to school and get a job, right? But like you kind of have more advantages in situations in life. That's kind of how I feel like dex is in 5e. Like,
well, I mean, there's so much like that's straight up combat based that's based on your dex, and especially if you're playing
avoiding
the right class,
things, right? Just surviving things is how to win that game.
If you cannot get hit and just like chip away damage, as long as the DM isn't like, okay, well, they drink a greater healing potion. Now you'll be here for another 3 hours. Stop not getting hit. You'll be fine.
Yep. Let me flip it back to you. Best multi-class. Favorite in your opinion?
I don't think I've ever actually played a multi-class.
Ever?
I don't think I've got far enough along in a character to begin to multi-class. So, the way I see multi-classing is I want to be comfortable in the primary class before I branch out and take any abilities from other ones. And then every time I think I might want to do that, there's a new rule set or something. Like with...
so this is purely on a meta level. It's you feeling comfortable yourself rather than your character. Oh, okay.
That's what it was.
Okay.
Because at that point, that was before I really realized that I was an RPer, and I wasn't playing D&D like I play D&D now. I was playing it more like I would Skyrim.
Yeah,
where I
like a game.
I want to get this cool build and run with it. So when I was doing my Sorcerer, I probably would have taken Sorcerer all the way because Sorcerer is cool.
And it's built that way. The game is built so that the longer you commit to the class, the cooler stuff you get. That's just the way it works.
Yep. I got really close to a multi-class on a Tiefling Warlock that I played. He was slowly losing his mind because of his patron. And I think I was going to multi-class over into some other, maybe like Cleric or something, and become more devoted to said patron. Sorry, my dog's doing some weird stuff. But as things kind of went on, I was thinking about multi-classing no one, actually. And we had talked about this. I wanted no one to evolve with the story, because that's the point I was at as a player, is it was all going to be narrative-based. And so with his core cracking in that dungeon that we were in, he became a wild magic barbarian instead of having to multi-class into some other magical subclass. So that worked out really well. So yeah, I've never gotten to multi-class a character, but I've always wanted to try to build a necromancer.
Yes, and I remember you wanted to be a necromancer in this campaign playing behind us, the Eberron campaign, but we decided there was so much political friction.
It was bad enough that I played a Carnathian.
Right, there was so much political, like this campaign we played was very political. And I didn't even intend for it to be that way. It's just like everybody gave me their characters that they wanted to play, and it was like the lowest common denominator of situation that made sense for it to revolve around. And yeah, in a world where being undead or undead things is taboo, obviously that's not the best idea for the start of a game.
Right.
Like if it did that later, right? You play a campaign to level 5 or 6, everybody has a bond with each other, characters like each other, you decide you want to stick together. Then like if undead happens, then there's some context. Right. And you also have built that bond so you care about them, but to introduce a new character that you're supposed to care about, but in character you despise, that's tough to force onto people.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with Gabriel being, Silver Flame, that was going to be
not
fight.
Anymore.
That's a fight on site, buddy. That's trouble.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, dude, we're cooking along. We're cooking on this podcast today. You want to talk about some rule stuff before we got out of here?
Yeah, let's talk about some rules. What are some rules that you prefer to ignore in I guess, or prefer homebrew rules too? Because I know playing with you, I've played a lot of games where we've messed with initiative, and there's been some other sort of group actions and things like that, and I've really liked all those things. And I just saw something the other day, kind of just sinking into rabbit holes on YouTube, about commonly ignored rules or misunderstood rules and things like that, and that got me kind of thinking, like, what kind of stuff have we done where we've thrown rules out the window in the name of fun or in the name of saving time and making things feel faster and better? Because let's be frank, unless everybody is ready with an action at the end of their turn, so you take your turn and you're already planning out your next one, 5e combat is a little slow sometimes.
A little?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Just sometimes. And just a little.
Yeah. I have completely converted. I only play with group initiative. Exclusively. There's not been a situation where rules as written initiative has played better. In my situation, I run one-shots here in Seattle all the time for strangers. I have run multiple campaign arcs, one-shots, on Discord with us, and not once have I ever felt like rules as written initiative was more fun or even more fair. I haven't even felt like switching to group initiative has made things not fair or have changed the rules really in any way. It's one of those it's how we've always done it moments, right? When you have a tradition, it's it's because we've always done it. Well, why don't you do it this way? Because that's not how we do it. Well, why? Because book. Shout out to all religions ever. So I'll just explain briefly the kind of group initiative that I'm talking about right here that I've adopted. That is, you still roll for initiative because it's a mechanic of the game, and it's a thing to roll for, and it's a thing on your character sheet, and it's a part of your character. So what I use is I roll an average. So everybody rolls their initiative. I add I have a little calculator or a tab open in a browser. It's not that fucking hard before y'all start complaining. It's more work. It's not that hard. I put in everybody's initiatives and I average them all together. It gives me a number. I roll once for all of the enemies or NPCs, or, if you really want to go further, you can roll one number for NPCs, one number for enemies. And then whoever is highest, all of them go first, and then all of the heroes go together.
Yep.
When you are ready to take your turn, it is no different than knowing when to speak in an RP scenario. It's the same kind of table manners. If you are ready and you are convicted in your decisions, then you act. Because guess what? That's how real combat works.
Yeah.
When you decide you're going to act, you act. And you don't look around at your entire group and say, should I do this?
Yeah.
Right?
There aren't many fights, or I'll use like HEMA and stuff like that. So there's a sport that takes place. It's like action medieval fighting. So imagine MMA, but these dudes are carrying axes, swords, and they're in armor. Mm-hmm. If you see a group brawl, that is one of the events. They put like 10 dudes in a ring in the mud, and they have them fight. Nobody's taking 6 seconds to themselves to swing an axe and take their motion. That would look weird.
Mm-hmm.
It would look so weird. Battle is chaos. It's all at once. Everybody's moving and acting at once, and there's an ebb and a flow, an act and a react. And that, I think, is what that group actions and group initiative is more like.
I think the reason why people are hesitant towards it or have a visceral gut reaction to just everybody goes whenever is that it's pressure.
Yeah.
And people don't like to feel pressured. However, I would argue that group-based initiative is good pressure.
Yeah.
Because what happens is somebody decides, all right, well, fuck it, I'm ready. I swing twice at this guy with my great axe. And then the next person is like, oh shit, I was going to do something to that guy. And it's exactly like if you were there, standing there, watching your friend go attack that guy. Now you have to decide, like, oh, what am I going to do now? And then guess what? If you take too much time, the ranger's like, I'm going to throw a bomb in there. And then, like, it's going to blow up that other guy. And you're like, oh, shit, I was thinking about, oh, shit, like, I better act.
I better do something.
Yeah. Because whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And then we talk about it after the battle, right? Because that's what creates dynamics and tension and interaction with the characters, right?
Yeah.
It's like RPing. It's like keeping the RP going in battle.
Right. It
instead of switching from D&D to board game, to chess.
Yep. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it feels way more fluid.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's what I love about it. I love that you've adopted that, and when you run games that you get to do that because it feels good as a player, as a combatant, and it's probably a hell of a lot easier as a TM.
You're also always engaged.
Yeah.
You don't take your turn and then look at your phone.
Right.
Because, you just, I mean, you can go quickly. Here's the worst case scenario. You go quickly and then look at your phone.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. If everybody did that, the next round would be in literally 6 seconds.
Yep. You wouldn't need to look at your phone. People look at their phone because they're like, okay, so that's going to happen, and now I'm bored.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Or
I'm bored because
I'm not engaged because I'm not doing anything. It's not my turn yet. I'm not allowed to think about anything. Mm-hmm. So that's a big one. And then also one that I've only adopted for longer, like non-one shots, is revolves around death. Death saving throws. Exhaustion.
Okay.
So if somebody goes down, I feel like 5e, there's way too much yo-yoing, and it's way too easy to get knocked unconscious and be dying, have somebody touch you, and then swing your sword again.
Yeah, and then just
immediately
be fine.
be
nothing
fine.
Happened.
So another way that I like to encourage role-playing into that, and also make people a little bit more afraid of threats and being knocked unconscious, is that if you go unconscious and get brought back up, you get a point of exhaustion every single time you do that.
Yeah.
Which makes you become, a liability, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're gonna heal somebody, you heal them, you use all your juice in the tank.
Yeah.
Heal them all the fucking way, because you don't want them to go down again, because then they're gonna have a disadvantage on everything, and then
worse.
a third time they're literally gonna need. And the thing about exhaustion too is you need good food, drink, and a full day's rest to eliminate that, right? And it scales. So if you go down twice in a battle, you have level 2. It's gonna take you 2 days to feel back to normal.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's nuts.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
If you were near death twice in one day, I would take a fucking week off.
Well, I mean, even like, right? Like nobody goes to the hospital for like a heart attack and is fine the next day. It's like they're gonna need some time to come back from that.
Yeah.
I got two things for that.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, do you cap it off? Do you get 3 levels of exhaustion and then you're just like out of the fight? You basically can't do anything, or do you do, so many levels of exhaustion and then they are unconscious but stable? Like they can't be brought back into it because they're just so wrecked from all this battling and nearly dying, or do they die?
That's never happened before because I feel like I don't think that would ever happen.
I don't think so either.
Because once you
in the
put that
hypothetical
in
situation.
Yeah, but like in a hypothetical, I think if they go down 3 times from exhaustion in one battle, then yeah, they would just die.
Yeah. Okay.
Honestly, but realistically, I don't think that would ever happen because once you up the stakes and put that homebrew rule into place and there's that fear, they're way more likely to run away.
Yeah.
I think. They're more likely to and even that, like if you're going down that constantly, then you're in danger of getting hit while you're down anyway, and that's 2 failures.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I don't think it would ever get to a yo-yo 3 times exhaustion with that rule in place. And I think that's why the rule works.
Yep.
Is because the rule enforces player behavior, which I think the best rules do.
Yeah.
They're not just it's because they force players to behave in a certain way that makes the game feel work and more fun.
Yep.
Right? More emotional, more tension, less boring, but also fair.
Yeah, they're not really there for punishment for breaking them. They're there to make the interactions and the decision making more impactful or interesting.
I agree. What about you? Homebrew rules that you've picked up over the years or liked or haven't tried yet or would like to try?
I like a couple of those. I do like lasting injuries, but I know not everybody does.
Yeah, it's not everybody's cup of tea, right?
No.
Like, try some, those are ones you kind of have to check, right? You got to check with them. See, like, are you cool with this kind of thing? Like if I chopped your arm off right now, did your character want to be like a chef later on in life? Or you know what I mean? Like before you start chopping fingers and eyeballs out, right? Like you, it's tough.
Yep. I do a lot of the when I run games, if it makes sense for a player to get an insta-gib on someone, I'll give it to him. If they sneak up on a dude in an alleyway and they say, I shoved my dagger into his brain, okay, he dies.
Right.
Yeah, like,
They're
I
not
don't care how
gonna
many hit points he
damage.
has.
Right.
Ow, my brain.
Yeah.
And then goes to initiate combat. No way, dude. That guy's down. He's gone.
Within reason, right? Because sometimes, I don't know if you've ever thought about this too, but sometimes I don't always think about AC and hit points as like life. Sometimes I think about HP as like the will to live, like how enduring they can be of situations, right? So like the only problem with that is HP as life makes a lot of sense to people, right? It's easy to understand. Whereas if you tell somebody, it's kind of like when you tell somebody when they miss the AC that they still hit, but like it hits armor. Yeah. They're like, did I hit though? Right? It's like,
right. It hit, but it was ineffective.
Right. It's easy to understand, but boring. Because if all you ever did was hit a target and successfully injured them or missed completely, that's boring.
Oh my God.
That's so boring.
And how bad would it feel to like constantly just be missing? Oh my God.
It's like either a swish or an air ball in basketball, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not how the game works. Otherwise, it'd be very boring. So I think of it that way too. So like maybe somebody that they're sneaking up on that they want to like stab in the brain, maybe they are a highly trained rogue, right? So like maybe they catch it right the last second, and instead of stabbing right in the brain, you stab them or scrape them.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Well, no, yeah, they still have to roll for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like if you already know in your mind, like this is average Joe guard with no armor on, and he literally goes to the pub after his shift every day, and it's a level 5 rogue that's doing it, then I agree with you.
Yeah.
You don't always have to roll, and don't always have to roll damage on everything if it makes sense, right?
And-
You're killing the fantasy of it.
Yep. And it's a lot of it. It is a little extra brain work because you got to look into like their base stats and stuff. Like if they're absolute trash at a particular thing and they're like, I want to do this. Like, okay, so maybe I do make you roll because your stealth and sleight of hand are like 4. And you're wearing heavy chain and all this, and they want to do that because it feels cool, but like
And
you're not
wearing
equipped to do
lingerie
this,
and
right?
makeup and lipstick.
But like you're not equipped to do this, so maybe it will be a little more difficult. But in instances where the player is set for the situation and they're going in for the action, if I feel like they can do that, and like you said, it's just average Joe Schmo guy sitting outside of a cave guarding a thieves' den or whatever, or maybe you're evil characters, maybe you're killing the entire town. Yeah, go for it. Even if they are wearing good armor, because you have the time. Basically, it's a surprise round. You're not going to be like, "Oops, I had it was a super fast decision."
I mean, you already said it. Oops.
Right.
Oops.
There's no like, "Oops, I had to act super fast." It's like, no, you can like position whatever you need as long as your stats and rolls and stuff are good enough. If we made you roll, yeah, just go ahead, just brain the guy. Whatever, he's gone.
Yeah.
But like you said. If it is a more flavored character, I do like taking things to Flavored Town, right? It's always better to flavor your interactions between players, NPCs, the world around them, whatever. That's what keeps it intriguing and interesting. And specifically when you were talking about AC, with it being AC, it means armor class, but it's 2 things. It's your base armor stat, and it's your dex modifier.
Yeah, it's
So
like your ability to avoid something plus your physical defense.
Yeah, there's that bonus where if you cannot or if you wouldn't normally, you're wearing the appropriate equipment to not get hit. So in situations like that, if it's like a King's Guard or whatever and full ass plate, like it might be kind of hard. You're gonna have to roll unless you can get it under the plate through the chainmail and all this other stuff. But again, there's that flavor aspect to it. And I like to bring that into combat, too. What was the other rule I wanted to talk about?
I was just going to touch on quality of life and annoyance rules. So,
Okay. Yeah.
things like eating food, drinking water, going to the bathroom, weight capacity, right? What are some things that you don't like, throw away?
I do the rations thing if people seem to care about it. If they don't care about it, you're probably not going to be spending 3 weeks in the woods, And a lot of the games that I've run have had rangers that have gone out and been like, I'm going to go hunting. I'm going to see what I can find. I'm going to stock up on our food. And if players are interacting with the world like that, I'm not going to punish them for being out of rations. Like, it's less fun that way. People typically don't want to do that. And also, nobody wants to say, all right, I need to, hold on, stop the caravan. I got to shit behind that rock.
Yeah.
Just give me a minute. Like, it's assumed that it happens in your travels. It's a game. It doesn't have to be that real.
Yep.
So I think for a lot of it, I kind of brush some of that stuff away. Weight capacity specifically, it's never come up where someone's been too heavy.
Interesting. I've had to use weight capacity a couple times.
Really?
Weight capacity is something that I do like. I do enjoy. Only because of it because another thing about video games too that I think that some people do enjoy is the inventory.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like imagine, because right now if you go on D&D Beyond, make a character, and you're playing a campaign, they become these long like to-do lists. Right?
Yeah.
Like
So-
you can just keep writing and writing and writing and writing, and it's like you can have so much stuff you don't know what's in your pack unless you go through it.
Right. So we kind of touched on that with Marstone, actually. When I sent you the who did we use for the minis? It was Hero Forge, right?
Yes.
When I sent you the Hero Forge model, you looked at it and you were like, you are covered in shit.
Yeah.
There are so
You're
many
like a
items on this
pack
character.
mule.
Right. And I was looking at it and I was like, well, that's That's my backpack. That's my weapon. That's my secondary weapons. Those are my tools. That's all my stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's what D&D characters look like. They
Well,
have
I don't
huge
think
backpacks.
Right, but I think that's one thing people omit in their minds when they think of their characters. I don't think people, when they think of what their character looks like when they're traveling, it's not 7, people rucking through the mountains, right?
Right. Yeah.
They think of them as like cartoon characters.
Yeah. How many times have you heard descriptions for like a wizard? And it's like, okay, describe what you look like. Well, I'm wearing a robe and a cloak and a hat, and I have a staff or a focus, some kind of symbol. Okay.
Yeah.
What about your dagger?
What about your books?
Backpack? What about
What about your scrolls?
What about all this other stuff? Like where's all that? He's like, oh yeah, I guess that's there too. But like people don't want to think about that because they're looking at it like
it's the aesthetics, dude.
Yeah,
it's messy. It's clunky.
It is.
It's not.
And
it doesn't look good.
And I get it. I've done it too. Because when you draw your character, you don't, or when you have, in your mind, maybe I draw my characters, but in your mind, when you create this character, you're thinking like, okay, I look awesome. But then you throw like a 7-day pack on them and you're like, I look like shit.
By the way, I have to touch on that. You're a really good artist.
Ish.
Like you like when this podcast comes out, you will have done the artwork for it.
Yeah.
And you know what? You should. Have you ever thought about doing commissions?
Yeah.
For artwork, for D&D character artwork.
I always talk myself out of it.
This show's about to be sponsored by you, dude.
All right.
Yeah. Honestly, that could be. People love that stuff, man.
I know. Yeah.
People are out there making 6 figures drawing furries.
That's true.
That's
true. The furry market is popping. Always has been.
That's today's episode title. The furry market is popping. Weight limit. I do that mostly for carrying big objects, weapons, and gold.
Yep.
Gold is heavy.
Gold is heavy.
Gold pieces are heavy. There's not cell phones and Chase Bank account app, right?
Right.
It's
so
like you're carrying the gold around.
Yeah. Imagine a big sack of quarters.
Yeah.
It's comparable. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Could you imagine like actually trudging through like rough terrain with a giant sack of quarters strung off your belt?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, no.
You know what else is interesting about annoying rules?
What's
that I find the best options, the best alternatives are turning away from punishment and encouraging. It's kind of like how you train a dog with positive reinforcement as opposed to negative reinforcement. So like for food, I don't say like, oh, if you don't eat today, you'll get exhausted. But I do. I think the last time we ran a game, I said like it's kind of how like some MMOs do food. So if you eat a really good meal, you get like a buff for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Right? Where you have advantage on certain things because you're well fed, you feel good, you're on alert, you're on point, nourished.
Classic well fed, well rested.
Exactly. Like well rested XP thing, right? Or maybe you do get bonus XP, right? Like maybe everything's better. So I think that turning annoying things, and if you really think that should be encouraged in your world and in your game, just give them benefits for doing it as opposed to punishing them for not. And I think you can apply that to pretty much any rule in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, with sort of quality of life rules being talked about, there are some that do actually affect gameplay that you might, maybe not you exactly, but some people see as unfair. Like a lot of people, for example, a lot of people have tried to play an Aarakocra only to be limited and not be able to fly by the DM at level 1 or whatever. What do you think about that kind of stuff? What do you think on racial trait rulings?
That's a session 1.
Yeah.
Session 0. Sorry, that's a session 0 conversation. You either have to decide it's not going to be good, or you have to decide it's going to be good. I would heavily discourage a DM to allow something. No, sorry, I would heavily discourage a DM to half allow something.
Yeah.
Because then you're already breaking trust.
Yep.
Because you're saying I only half trust in you and your decision to half allow me to do something, or to because then it's no longer what you wanted, it's what they wanted.
Yeah.
So I think that's a session 0. I think you have to decide flying not going to be allowed. So those races aren't going to be allowed. Sorry. Like, that's just the way it's going to be. Or the DM has to say, okay, how can I allow them to do that and adjust my game so that flying does not break it?
I think that's the better option.
Yeah.
That one right there. Because I feel like for the most part, DMs are going to feel like flying is unfair because other characters can't fly. But is it because it's a combat thing? Is it a mobility
Flying
thing?
characters can be seen better.
Yeah. Like, there are disadvantages.
Yes.
So how are you going to balance that out? To me, it's, do whatever you want. I'll adjust accordingly. But I am an improv DM. That's what I'm better at. And if you're a flying character, well, then maybe this, troop of kobolds are expert marksmen with crossbows.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? You're not going to have that huge advantage. That
when's the last? Here's the thing. Here's a good comparison in real life. You're ever in a city, like let's say you're in Chicago, and like a plane flies by to land at an airport. Do you ever just not look at the plane? Or do you look at the plane?
You have to look at the plane.
Right? You look at the plane every time, even though you hear it, you know what it is.
Even when you're driving, you do this.
Right. You look at the plane.
You have to look.
Right. So, flying characters, the same fucking thing. The same. You see something that's like 6 feet tall, flying around and casting a shadow. Unless you live in a world where everybody's doing it, then that's already not a problem.
Yeah.
It's gonna cause a problem. It's gonna cause eyeballs. So, yeah. I think that's something too where you just have to give them. You have to give them the dub, right?
Yep.
Like you have to allow them to have that one hack, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to be able to fly up and see everything, but then give them new challenges. Not punish them, but give them challenges along with that they can also overcome. Because the goal of the DM is to try to get your players to win everything, right? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's adversarial DMing.
Right.
But you have to give them satisfying challenges, right?
Yep.
So they're not trying to fuck you with flying, right?
Right.
They just want one cool thing.
Yeah, they're looking for
to give them one cool advantage, and usually they're okay with other challenges. Mm-hmm. They just want that one cool thing. So don't give them half of the cool thing, because then it's not cool at all.
Yeah. I think for right now, that's all the rule stuff I want to talk about. Because I know that there's this could be a super deep discussion, especially with all the add-on books that they have and all the rule sets for that.
Yeah.
I think we'll keep it basic for now.
I agree. And I think that's all I want to talk about, period, for now, because I'm still really hungover. So why don't you get us out of here? Tell them where they can email into the show, find out all the other information, maybe socials, whatever we're going to do.
Sure. Folks, you can find us at, right now we've got the email. It's podcast+1, all spelled out, podcast+1mail @gmail.com. We are going to have socials. We're going to have a TikTok. We're going to be uploading small clips there. We're going to have a YouTube channel where this video formatted podcast goes, seeing as we do it entirely in VR.
Right.
You may have heard us at the beginning reference Link and, what was your character's name again?
My name's Jeff.
And Jeff. And then we'll also, if you're listening, you're probably listening on either Spotify, iTunes, or, Google Podcasts or whatever friggin' places we're going to put it. Those are the socials we're going to have for right now, I think.
Cool. Sounds good.
Write in at the Gmail. Send us some questions, stuff that you want us to talk about, or just answer any of the questions that we may have posited. If you want to talk smack, do that too.
Yes.
That'll be fun.
Yes, we're inviting you. Please interact with the show in any way that you can. We appreciate you all, and we'll see you next time for another magical podcast.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye.
Who's that fucking banana? Did you hide the banana?
I hid
it's like an Easter egg spot?
I played hide the banana.